Hey guys, I am so excited to have Amanda Johnson with us today. Amanda has some wonderful tips and tricks for you. Amanda is a writer, teacher, guide, and soulful inquirer who inspires recovering perfectionists and overthinkers to turn their critic into their ally so they can connect more fully with themselves and with others. Hi, Amanda, and welcome.
Hi. Hi. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you for joining us on this 30-day happiness experience.
Absolutely.
So, Amanda, I want to dive right in keeping with the theme of keeping these short. So, tell me, what does happiness mean to you?
Hmm. So I think that's a great question. And the first thing that comes to me when I think of happiness is being okay with what is. That simple, being okay with what is. And I think sometimes that is easier than other times, which is, I think, when we are happy, it's because we really like what's going on and we're really excited about it. And for me, the journey is to bring more of that into all aspects of our life, even when it doesn't always feel so good.
So, I know Amanda does a lot of work about being centered with who you are and being okay with who you are in the person and the body that you came in this complete package. So, Amanda, tell us, what are some tips or techniques that you have brought to us today to help us just to be okay with ourselves?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll give just a 1 minute overview of kind of the framework I see it all fitting under, and then a couple really practical tools you can apply right here, right now. So, the work that I've done and the work that I continue to practice and teach is really based in this idea, and to me, the process to finding happiness or experiencing more happiness is with these like a three-stage approach. And first, it's that we are looking to experience more non judgmental awareness and we become the observer. And then we are learning to accept what is. And then we start releasing our attachments to things looking a certain way, to a certain outcome or to a certain expectation or to a certain belief. And so, within this framework, within these stages of learning to become the observer, accept what is, and release these attachments, that's to me where we can find this happiness and be okay with who we are. And so I think a couple things that you could do right here, right now, in that first stage where we're looking at moving out of judgment and we're looking to become more of the observer, I think one thing that's really helpful, and it seems really simple, and some of you may already be familiar with it, but if you aren't, this was just kind of a game changer for me. When we have that critic, or that mind chatter that goes on and on and on in our heads. And especially if we find ourselves or we were stuck in a train of thought that we just seemingly can't get out of. One of my favorite things to do is to say, thank you for sharing. So I acknowledge the voice in my head, or I acknowledge the critic, or I acknowledge the judgment that's happening. And I say, thank you for sharing. And I shift my attention if I can. And so it seems a little simple, and maybe even a little silly, but it actually can make a world of difference. So that's my first tool. Just in that moment to kind of stop the judgment where it is, say thank you for sharing, and then see if you can more intentionally shift your focus. Another quick tool I think that can be helpful, and sometimes this is a more of a proactive tool where rather than being in the moment and being reactive, is to be more conscious of the language that we are using. And so a lot of times when we are working on becoming less judgmental, meaning that we are being, less dualistic, thinking things are black or white, right and wrong. I found for myself, the journey included being more consciously aware of what are the words I'm using. So instead of saying something is right or something is wrong or something is good or something is bad, is there another word I could choose? Could I play with using the word interesting, or maybe just calling the situation what it is and not feeling like I have to label it one way or the other. And so I think that's another quick tool as you're practicing some of these ideas and looking for a little more happiness of being okay in the moment, is to say, okay, what is really happening? Or can I choose a word that's maybe a little more neutral to describe my experience? And then my third tool, I'm going to leave you three tools. I love threes. So, okay, my third tool is, and this really for me helps with kind of those other two stages as we learn to accept what is and release our attachments to things looking a certain way, this tool I think is really helpful because it just helps us to be grounded in what is. And it also just it helps us to see things from a different perspective. So the tool that I would recommend, or the technique here, is to keep a gratitude journal or an evidence journal. And a lot of you probably already know what these are. Maybe you already keep one. But what I find that practice to do is it keeps us, like I said, really grounded in what is. And then it allows us to start feeling okay about it and good about it. And so one thing that I've done is just at the end of the day, or maybe throughout your day, keeping a list somewhere of those things that you're grateful for. And then also the other option is this evidence journal. And when I started to play with that, I thought that was really fun because I started looking for how I was being supported in the universe. So was I receiving something from somebody, or did I don't know, have a really good connection with somebody one day, or where was I witnessing love, or where was I witnessing happiness, or where was I witnessing these things in my life, so that I could be more aware of what is, and just be cultivating more of it. So those are my 3 tools to really make sure that you're thanking your judgment, but not getting caught up in it. And then you are choosing your words a bit more intentionally, and then keeping that gratitude or evidence journal.
Those are so amazing and so rich, because in each tool that we use, if there's another added layer. And I love the gratitude journal because as you're building it, you feel the momentum of it growing. Just becoming aware of all the things that are actually supporting you in your life, everything that is going well for you. It really changes your perception, because a lot of times we are so focused on the negative, that just that perception change, growing momentum, focuses your attention on looking for the positive. So you are then looking for things throughout your day that are actually going well. So I really haven't played a lot with changing the words, but I can see where that would be benefit, because you can feel words and they feel really heavy at times. So placing a lighter feeling word, or an open feeling word in that place.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can feel, sometimes it can feel a little unnatural at first, and it might even feel clunky and a little bit like, why would I just say this other word, or, but if you can bring a little element of play or curiosity to it, it can be really fun. And you can, and what I experienced was, after a while, it actually becomes very natural, and it becomes very unconscious in a way, to certain words just kind of left my vocabulary after some time. So it might, I only say that for those who haven't tried it before or are trying it, at first, it's okay if it feels a little unnatural. I think that's part of the process. But then once you do it, for a couple of weeks, and again, maybe just picking one word to change at first, just something that you can manage, and then get the hang of it and start having fun with it.
It's really interesting, because as you're talking, I'm actually being pulled back into the past. Like there was languages and there was words that we would have used in a different time period that we no longer use. So we were those people back in the past that were like, we really don't need to use this word anymore. Like, let's pick a different word. So I just feel like I was just transcended into like the past. Wow.
Awesome.
I don't have an example. I don't know. Like, I'm sure there's words that would pop up that we don't use anymore, but that's really cool to like just think about letting go of these old languages.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me how applying these techniques has actually helped you in your life and inspired you.
Yeah, I think, reflecting on that question, it's interesting because I think about, years ago, just how really almost constantly unhappy I would have called myself. I mean, and it's not to say it was just like my life was miserable all the time. It actually was probably, for the most part, pretty good, but there was just like this underlying current of dissatisfaction, of dis-ease, of and I mean, again, when I think back to, you know, 5 years ago, and I'm, you know, just nothing is good enough. I mean, my relationship's not good enough, my job's not good enough. You know, the fact that I'm traveling all the time or whatever it was in that moment, it wasn't okay. And I was full of, I mean, the amount of self hatred at times, and just the amount of times I beat myself up over things. And I mean, I was called bipolar by people I was, you know, in relationship with. So I had this tendency to just kind of hit some lows, hit some highs, and then go back and forth in between. And really the whole time it was a lot of negative self-talk, a lot of self-doubt, and just, or I was actually thinking that I was like the greatest thing since the world came into existence, but that didn't last very long. So it was a kind of back and forth ping pong, you know, experience of life. And, so it felt at times very extreme. And then there was like this just undercurrent of dissatisfaction with everything. And so that was my reality. And then as I started to learn and then practice and apply these tools and this kind of new way, even though it wasn't really a new way, but for me, it was this new way of experiencing life. That is for me when I stopped beating myself up. I started practicing so much more compassion with who I am. That then translated into compassion for others, right? Then I was more compassionate with others. So my relationships improved. And it's not, again, not constant, but now, rather than that like undercurrent of dissatisfaction, that's not there anymore. Like that still shows up, but that's now like the exception to the rule. It's like, whoa, where does this come from? You know, and I'm now more observant of it rather than getting caught up in it. And then the other thing that really has changed is, rather than like these extreme highs and lows, I find that I'm able to kind of live in, it's not that I don't experience them, but I find that I'm kind of able to balance, but I'm going between them much more fluidly and with a lot more grace and a lot more ease. So rather than like having a really, you know, bummer of a day, and then that just takes me out for like maybe the week, I can now be in that experience, feel it, observe it, not judge myself for having it, you know, not judge myself for feeling like crap today. And then I'm able to come back because I've strengthened those muscles. So I think that's, for me, it's my experience of life overall has just become more peaceful and overall more pleasant because of that.
I actually have experienced the highs and lows too. And when I was a lot younger, I didn't know how to balance it. And when I was in a low, I was in a low for a very long time. And I went through the depression. And as I've been on this journey, like you, I also now know how that when I go into a low state, I accept it for what it is. Okay, this is just going to be a day where I just feel like shit. Like I'm emotional or hormonal or things are going on, and it's okay. And then I very quickly recover. So I feel like that ebb and flow, I allow the ebb and flow. And it's more like I'm definitely more in that peaceful state. And I feel like I have the tools, which we are teaching everyone. I feel like we have the tools to use to apply when we are feeling that. I want to go back to something that popped into my mind, and this feeling of dissatisfaction. I think people feel this and they want to run. They want to be, I'm going to move because I'm dissatisfied here, or I'm going to leave this relationship because I'm dissatisfied, or it's just constant like leaving. But guess what? You take you everywhere you go. And so if you're dissatisfied here, you're going to be dissatisfied there. And if you're dissatisfied in this relationship, you're going to be dissatisfied in the next one. Not to say if you're in an abusive relationship that you shouldn't seek help. So I just want to put that little disclaimer in there. But you are taking you with you, and all those feelings that you're feeling, you're going to experience them wherever you are. So I think that at that point, it was just being pulled. I was just hearing this like point of you're taking yourself everywhere you go with this dissatisfaction.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. Yep. Absolutely.
So, Amanda, as everybody is listening to this, really, how can you implement your message of just being happy in your own skin?
Hmm. I think it is, first of all, it is an ongoing practice. And I have to, I mean, we hear that a lot, and I don't think we can hear it enough, because sometimes it's easy to think either, well, they've done it, but I can't. There's kind of that idea that I'm somehow unique and special, and I'm the only one who can't experience this happiness and joy. Because we might get, it might take us longer than we think it should. And so I think to be reminded that it is an ongoing practice is helpful, so that first you're encouraged to try and to keep going, knowing that it's not going to just happen overnight, right? Or here's the other piece. It's an ongoing practice even once you have experienced it. So for me, I'm very much of this temperament that once I've done something, done, I've done it, I've mastered it, time to move on to the next thing. And that really tripped me up on this path, because all of a sudden I'd have these incredible, I'd experience this peace. I'd experience this joy, this kind of just this happiness, this okayness with life. And I got a taste for it. And then something would happen and I'd feel like shit again. I'd be like, well, what did I do wrong this time? And then that kind of that cycle would happen. So I offer that as just encouragement to any one of you who is on this path. And there comes that day where you're like, well, what the heck? Like, why am I now experiencing this still or again? Okay. So I think that's how we can implement it, is by remembering that it is ongoing. And the more we practice it, of course, the stronger we get at it. And to your point, kind of, we bounce back quicker. So I think that's important to remember. The other thing that I feel really called to say right now is that as we learn to, accept where we are, there just becomes this ability to say, it doesn't always have to look the way I think it's going to look. And so as I practice, being okay with what is, if that's right now my working definition of happiness. So it doesn't have to, sometimes what trips me up is that I still think it should look a certain way. So I'm happy if, I have this type of job, or this type of relationship, or this type of home, or I live in this type of city, or, we put all these qualifications. I've put all of these qualifications on happiness. And so for me, part of acceptance and releasing these expectations is letting myself see it for what it is and not think it has to fit into a certain box. And then, my happiness might be, star-shaped today and not a square, or maybe mine's a circle and yours is a triangle. And, they're just different boxes, but that's okay. And so I keep coming back to that reminder as well.
I love this. And I'm sorry, but the thought just whoop right out of my mind.
It's okay. I'm having a little bit of that too. It's all right.
What I was thinking was, as a conscious manifester, and I have seen this over and over again, it never looks like what you have envisioned. A lot of times it's a lot better if you will just release the expectation of what it has to look like, or what how it has to come into your life. I have definitely seen, you can think 1,000 ways of something, how it's going to happen or how it's going to manifest, and 1,001 is the way that it actually happens. So I love that, releasing the expectation of what it needs to look like, how it's going to show up, and just be happy with where you are. Amanda, we just have a few more minutes left in our conversation, and I know that we talked a little bit about your gift, so if you will share that with everyone, I would appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, for anyone who comes on over to my website, which I know you'll be linking below this information. So you can go to my website and you can sign up. There's a few places where you can do that. If you feel inspired, if you feel drawn to the message that I'm sharing, and if something resonates with you, I invite you to sign up. I send out newsletters, inspirations, resources. And then when you do sign up, you're also going to get access to my virtual Being You classroom. And that right now is it's home to probably about 4 hours worth of content that I've created, and it's been given away in other ways and other contexts, but I wanted to put it all in one place for people to have access to. So it's videos and workbooks and things like that you also might find useful as you're on your journey.
That is amazing. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. Well, Amanda, I enjoyed your techniques and tips with us that you have shared today. And thank you for being a part of this journey. I wish you a happy weekend.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This has been really a sincere honor. So, bye, everyone.
Bye.